Hello and welcome to the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. There's a lot of conversation over time. Sometimes it passes and then it comes back. And that conversation is about women in college leaving college early to play in the pros. In this case, that would be the WNBA. That's what I'm talking about right now. And I've had people even in the comments ask questions about that, the distinction or the difference between how men leave and go to the professional versus women and the rules surrounding that. Well, JuJu Watkins of USC waded in on the topic in a recent interview along with her coach, Coach Gottlieb. And I want to share a little bit of what she said, and then I want to tell you what my thoughts are concerning that. And before I forget, I am planning to go live tonight when USC and JuJu Watkins take on UConn and Paige Becker. So join me for that live if you would. Also, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Always appreciated. All right, let's take a look at what JuJu had to say concerning women college basketball players entering into the WNBA draft early. I'm here at SI.com, and the title of this article is USC's JuJu Watkins says players should have option to leave school early for WNBA. It goes on to let us know right now, college players can't declare for the WNBA draft until the year they turn 22. And so just to go through some of this, it tells us in order for a WNBA prospect to declare for the draft, the player has to graduate college or turn 22 years old in the same calendar year as the draft. This has limited women's college basketball players for years, as they often cannot declare for the WNBA draft until their senior season. So I do take exception with the word limited. In many ways, I think that it is a benefit, not a limit, but I understand what it's trying to say. It's saying that for years, they haven't been able to go early into the WNBA. So JuJu Watkins was asked about this, and it says controversial topic, while appearing on Good Game with Sarah Spain alongside her coach, Lindsay Gottlieb, this week. And Watkins sees both sides of the situation, where some people want the draft age to be lowered and others want it to stay the same because of the ever-growing college basketball landscape and NIL opportunities. Well, first of all, before I go any further, I want to ask you to, I don't know if you've ever thought about this before, but I want to ask you to just stop and think about it. Where are you on this issue? Do you feel that young women, that women in college playing sports should be able to go into the WNBA like men do? I mean, they have the opportunity to go. They don't have to wait till the year they turn 22. Why not get them in the pros? Or do you feel like they should have that option to leave early, as JuJu Watkins says they should? So I want you to think about that first. And if you have not formulated, I mean, you may already have an opinion, but if you don't, what do you think about that, first of all? And so now I'm going to go on back into the article and look at a little bit more. So here's what JuJu says. I want to say personally, I'm enjoying my experience, coach. So make sure she lets her coach know that. But she then says, I definitely think we should have the option. Okay, there's just been such a growth in college basketball where it's like, why would you want to leave? Because you're able to have that experience and build your brand here in college as well. I would definitely say we should have the option, but I think college is a way to prepare us for the pros as well. So I don't know. It's a touchy subject, but I'm for it. So she is for that option. Now, I just want to comment on a few things that I see here. First of all, I like that she says she's enjoying her experience in college. You should be enjoying your experience in college, right? You should be. But she then says, again, she thinks that there should be an option. And she talked about that you're able to have the college experience and build your brand here in college. And, you know, that's really interesting to me. And I am sort of old school. I don't look at college as building a brand. This is what has happened with the growth of NIL and the professional sports and all that. Now people think of college as building a brand. And in some ways, I think young people should be young people. They should be going to college for an education, and then if they have an opportunity to play sports on the collegiate level, then that's a wonderful thing. But the whole mindset about building a brand in college and preparing for the pros is sort of like, you know, you guys, you're probably going to say you got to get with the times, Adrienne, but I got to tell you, I'm more of a purist. I mean, when it comes to basketball, for example, I'm a stickler for the way things are supposed to be, the way the game is supposed to be played. So if you're doing a pick and roll, your belly button follows the ball on the roll, right? When it comes to handling the basketball, don't dribble the basketball unless you're going somewhere, right? So I have these mindsets, you shouldn't be passing the ball with one hand. And of course, there are exceptions to everything, but those are rare. That's why they're called exceptions. So I'm a purist in how the game is played, but I'm also a purist in how the game is viewed. And although nowadays I wouldn't want my child to go into college as it is now, because they go in one way and they come out another way. They come out fighting causes, and they come out feeling like they got to apologize for who they are, and the whole mess that goes on in college, the indoctrination. So that's a lesson or message for another day, or my other channel, right? Or maybe here, but not right now. In any case, if you're there, I think that Jan Jensen hit the nail on the head when she said recently about Iowa, we want Iowa to remain a basketball program. A lot of times I think what's happening is that these college coaches are thinking next level, next level, next level, and they're tailoring their players and their team to somehow fit into the next level instead of being college players. So there's that. But the idea that you can build your brand right here in NIL, right here, all those things that they have to navigate, to me is a bit much. And back to the article. So Gottlieb followed up Watkins' answer by explaining how the financial benefits in college basketball now with NIL deals would help many players still remain in college and not declare early if given the option. And she used Caitlin Clark as an example. And here it is. Yeah, they've got these NIL deals, and they can make more money in college than they perhaps could make in the pros. And so she points out Caitlin Clark, and she says, if you look at someone like Caitlin Clark, the platform of women's college basketball remains bigger. The eyes on the game remain bigger. So the deals that she gets coming into the WNBA, I can't stand that term, the W, don't mind me, into the WNBA, and the financial power she has is greater because the platform she had those last 2 years in college. If she had left after her sophomore year, she would have been ready basketball wise, but she wouldn't have brought what she brings. In addition to turning 22 years old in the same year as the draft, players can also declare earlier by graduating college in 3 years. So if the draft rule were to change, it's likely Watkins could have been declaring for the 2025 draft. Instead, she wouldn't be eligible until 2027. She has the opportunity to keep growing her platform at the college level. See, growing your platform. This is the stuff. I'm like, you're there, you get an education, play basketball. This whole new dynamic of growing your platform and your brand and all that is like, it's just foreign to me. Although I know that's the age in which we're living in. But she has the opportunity to keep growing her platform at the college level while also still improving her basketball game. Okay, let me weigh in more on what I think about all of this. When players leave college because they've got a measure of success in college, and they go say, hey, I'm going to get in the draft and I'm going to get in the WNBA because I can't wait to be on the professional level. And I want to go just enjoy the college experience, enjoy the success you're having there. When I look at the WNBA right now, I say you are better off in college. I know you want to play professional basketball. I know you grow up with the WNBA in mind. I get all that. But we look at the WNBA, which is highly toxic. Sorry, but it is. And I know I'm sure when Caitlin Clark went into the WNBA, she did not expect what she encountered. And that's why I find it interesting when she mentioned in the Time article that college basketball was so much easier than what she experienced. She said that professional players and professional coaches, there's no disrespect to the college women's game, are a lot smarter. I love women's college basketball. This is the Time magazine article. I love women's college basketball, but if you go back and watch the way people guarded me in college, it's almost like concerning. They didn't double me. They didn't trap me. They weren't physical. And it's hard. It's college. A lot of those women will never go on to play another basketball game in their life. They don't have the IQ of understanding how the game works. So I completely understand it. And it's no disrespect at all. They don't have the IQ. You have to simplify it for girls at that age. It's kind of interesting. It does kind of sound like a diss, but her point is that they played her so much harder. Now, one of the things that Caitlin has to be mindful of is that whereas she's saying it was so much harder, it's so much harder now. Nobody in the history of the WNBA has ever been played and defended like they decided to defend Caitlin Clark after Diana Taurasi said what she said and threw out the dog whistle so that they could play Caitlin differently, even though, there were levels to this thing. And Caitlin seems to agree from those statements. But again, Caitlin wasn't played like other people were played. So when she says it's so much harder, yeah, because they were hunting for your behind and they made it harder. But of course, it is the professional level. So to her point, I look at a JuJu Watkins, for example, and she's like, yeah, it should be an option, or any other player, or Paige Beckers, or anybody, or Hannah Hidalgo. You might go, yeah, they're totally ready. They should be able to declare early. It's not fair that women don't get to get in the professional world early. And I go, it is a different world. It's a different culture. There's that. But when you look at the numbers of people who went through the draft, who stayed like the rules currently are, how many of them from college into the WNBA make a team? I looked it up. So it says 144 total roster spots across 12 franchises. This limited number of spots severely impacts rookies, as only 15 of the 36 draftees, 42% from the 2023 draft, made opening day rosters. So all these players who think, oh yeah, we're ready. Yeah, I wish that they can be able to declare sooner than the rules allow. How many of them are making a spot? The league has 13 teams. And that's why they say it's the hardest place to play, because there are a limited amount of teams, and you got to be extra good. So they tell us. So that's why they expand. And some people are like, you should expand so that more people who are not necessarily the best of the best of the best, but they're good enough to play on the professional level, they should have an opportunity to play. And then other people say, by expanding, you're watering down the product. So whatever view you take on that, the bottom line is that a huge percentage of people who enter the WNBA, even after completing 4 years of college, don't make a team, are not there when tip-off starts at the beginning of that season. So how do we know? What do we want to do? Set them up to get out there just so that they can get out early and play professionally and all that, and they're not ready. I mean, when I coached, granted it was high school, I coached varsity. The rules were that if you took a player early, an underclassman early, they had to be a starter. Like, I was not supposed to take a person up from 9th grade or 10th grade and put them on varsity and have them ride the bench. No, because it's better to have them stay where they fit, stay where they can get plenty of playing time, they can develop, the other players can develop around them, and not be riding the bench, because that's not a good thing. Even though it sounds good to say I'm on varsity. So for some of these ladies, it may sound good to say, oh, I declared early for the WNBA draft. But are you really prepared for what you're going to encounter when you get there? And again, I'm old school. I'm a purist. I say, even though, like I said, I don't want my kids in this college system, in the way, the indoctrination, all that. Same thing with in public schools as well. Be that as it may, rushing, changing the rules. So you get kids who are, 20 years old, for example, declaring for the draft. They're not ready. They don't make a team, or they're riding a pine when they could be developing and playing, as Coach Gottlieb said here. And since they also get to build their brand, there's the other plus because of the way things are right now. I mean, I had a player, the player I coached the longest, I put her on varsity as an eighth grader. But the girl she could play, she was an athlete, not just a basketball player, but an athlete. But I wouldn't want to bring her up and then she not be able to compete at that level. And according to what Caitlin seems to say, it's so much more difficult, she says. And Adrienne, what about you saying that men should be able to, but women shouldn't be able to? That doesn't seem fair. Well, I don't really know that men should be doing it either, because many of them have a history. They got the money, they've got the eyeballs on them, they're traveling, they've got women throwing themselves at them, and nowadays men throwing themselves at them. I mean, you don't know what it is they're going to encounter, and there is something to be said for a level of maturity. So this JuJu was asked this question, and it's considered a controversial topic, and she feels that it should be an option. Well, there's a reason why older, more mature people should be the people making these kinds of decisions. And so again, I know you probably say, well, you're old fashioned and you got to get with the times and all this stuff. You might be right. Be gentle with me. But again, I am a bit of a purist, and I don't even necessarily see the WNBA as someplace that I would want to be rushing into as it stands. I don't know, but I am curious. What do you think? Have you thought about this topic before I brought it up? Do you think that women should be able to declare early for the draft? Do you think that they should do it because men can do it? Do you think nobody should be able to do it? What are your thoughts? And what the coach said here too, if Caitlin had gone early, things would certainly be different. She wouldn't have had the opportunity to build what was built, and even still being carried forward at Iowa and throughout college basketball and now professional basketball too. So what are your thoughts? Love to hear those in the comments. And also, I want you to subscribe if you haven't done so. Remember, planning to go live tonight for, speaking of JuJu Watkins, JuJu and her Lady Trojans, or Women of Troy, as they're called, versus the UConn Lady Huskies. If you know me, you know I never root for UConn. I am anybody but UConn. It is what it is. And so let's go Trojans. So join me. I will catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.